Now there's all this, what went wrong? What happened? Remember Hillary Clinton's book, What Happened? And Bernie Sanders is out there. Bernie is talking. Bernie is outraged at the Democratic Party, and he has the solutions. Listen to Bernie Sanders on Meet the Press just yesterday. Keith, listen to this.
Where is the Democratic Party? Are they prepared to stand up to these powerful corporate interests, raise the minimum wage, fight for health care for all people, make sure that all of our kids get the quality education that they need, expand Social Security? Are they prepared to do those things? That's the issue that we have to address.
But, Senator, should he have gotten out of the race more quickly, as some are arguing?
I'm not going to. I supported him because I think his agenda was a strong agenda, a working class agenda. I'm not going to look backwards. Kamala ran a strong campaign. She did everything that she could. She decisively won the debate. So to me, it's not just about the campaign. It's about what does the Democratic Party stand for? Do ordinary people say, yeah, that is a party that is fighting for my interest and prepared to take on the big money interest who control the economic and political life of the country? That's to me what the issue is. People are in pain. People are hurting. They can't afford to go to a doctor. They can't afford to send their kids to childcare or to college. They're worried about future generations and what kind of standard of living they will have. Here is the bottom line, and it has to be dealt with. You got an economy today doing phenomenally well for the people on top. It is not working for the working class. All right?
The American people want someone who's going to stand up and say, I feel your pain. I just want to play one more clip with Dana Bash on CNN. Listen to this.
The voters supported is a man who would never do any of what you just said. I mean, not even close.
Right. But what that man named Donald Trump did do is he said, I feel your pain. I know that you're hurting, and I have an explanation. Well, his explanation was bogus. You know, millions of people coming across the borders illegal. We have to strengthen the borders. That goes without saying, but that is not the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem right now is to have a small number of people on top who have enormous economic and political power. How, for example, can the Democrats not say, look, we got to get rid of the Citizens United? In this campaign, in the Republican Party, Democratic Party, billionaires exerted their power.
I don't know if Senator Sanders gets this, but this is where I lean in. The average voter does not care about policy. Kamala Harris had a plan for the middle class. When Kamala Harris did her town hall in Detroit, there was a question about the working poor, of how you were going to help the poor, not just the middle class. Now, I don't know if everybody, heard it. I don't know if CNN or MSNBC or Fox had to add a ticker at the bottom, but she was being criticized for talking too much about being middle class herself. She had a plan with the child income tax credit. She had a plan for first-time home buyers. She literally had what was called the opportunity agenda. She had a plan for the black working class as well, for black men. She was saying it repeatedly, over and over. I mean, I'm thinking back, all I heard Trump talk about was himself. All I heard him use were Southern Strategy 2.0 tactics, using fear to say the reason why you don't have your black job is because of the immigrants. I'm just perplexed that Citizens United, I agree. I mean, President Barack Obama has blasted Citizens United, the money in politics, but he talks about the minimum wage. Build Back Better was going to raise the minimum wage. What does it mean when Democrats have these policies, but they know they can't get it through Congress? It's like Senator Sanders thinks that you could just say something and magically it will appear. I agree with everything he said, which was, by the way, Jesse Jackson's platform in 84 and 88. I agree with everything he said, but why isn't anybody pushing back? But how do you get it through Congress? And what do you do when you have the candidate who laid that out repeatedly for 107 days and the other candidate who just talked about himself? I'm confused. Am I missing something, Keith?
No, Clay, you're not missing anything at all. And in fact, I think the most striking example was when Donald Trump visited that McDonald's put on a little McDonald's apron, pretended like he was a working class person for a few hours, in order to troll Kamala Harris because she had actually worked at McDonald's. And then when a reporter asked the question, so what about the minimum wage? Do you support raising the minimum wage? Trump just turned his head, ignored the question, asked several more times. He just ignored the question and pretended to wait on a customer. I mean, Donald
I'm
Trump was the antithesis of everything that Bernie Sanders said he wants a candidate to espouse, the views. And it didn't make a difference because they weren't voting about the economy. Robert Rice posted a tweet, I think yesterday, where he said that the Republican Party has opposed paid sick leave, paid family medical leave, universal child care, universal pre-care, tax increases on corporations and the rich, and the expanded child tax credit, student debt relief. Doesn't sound like the party of the voting class, of the working class to me. And he was right, because it's not a working class agenda. The Democrats have a working class agenda. She supported all those things you said. She supports the minimum wage. She supports the labor unions. She supports expanded health care coverage and Affordable Care Act. Donald Trump only had concepts of a plan for health care. She had a plan for new families, as you pointed, $6,000 for new families. She had a plan for new home buyers, $25,000 for new home buyers. She had a plan for inflation to tackle price gouging. She was willing to go after corporations who were doing that. All these people who were making these Monday morning quarterbacking.
She was talking to the American people. Remember how she was saying, he's only talking about himself. Do you want to go back to where it was before? She was literally talking to the American people. So what does this mean, Keith, if she lays all this out and Sanders is saying we have to go back to the working class? What does it mean if you have a working class platform and the anti-working class guy wins? What does that say?
It means something very obvious, Clay, and you and I have talked about this repeatedly. This election is not about the economy. It's not about the working class. It's about white supremacy. I've been saying this, you've been saying this, we've all talked about this many, many times. And even I just saw my mom even sent me something yesterday, I guess 60 Minutes, a show yesterday about Latino voters saying they were voting for the economy. Bullshit. Even Donald Trump didn't have a plan for the economy. He was running off of his image, his reputation from The Apprentice, and the willingness to trust a white failed businessman and convicted criminal with no plan for inflation and only concepts of a plan for healthcare over a competent Black woman with specific plans is itself a form of racism. That is exactly the reason why some people were willing to excuse all of his misbehavior, all of his misconduct, all of his failure to articulate a coherent plan, and to distrust the Black woman and trust the white man. That's about racism. That's about white supremacy, folks. It's about patriarchy. It has nothing to do with the economy, even for people who claim that they are voting based on the economy. The willingness to accept the lame arguments from a guy who doesn't know a damn thing about the economy over a woman who was recommended, her policies are recommended by a number of Nobel economists, who has said all the right things and presented plans, and her plans received more approval, by the way, according to the most recent Washington Post survey, than Donald Trump's plans. It was never about logic and the economy and working class. It was always about white supremacy, which is the reason why no Democratic candidate for president has ever won the white vote since 1964, when Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. It's not about the working class, because Black working class voters voted for Kamala Harris. They didn't vote for Donald Trump. The
ones who voted, because many millions stayed home.
Exactly, but the ones who voted are the ones we can count, and they did not vote for Donald Trump. So if we could see through all the shenanigans he was putting up, then why can't white America? Because it was never about the economy. It was always about white supremacy.
Why is Sanders saying this?
There was no chance.
It sounds cute.
Because this is his MO. This is what he said. And I agree with his description of the problem, but I disagree with his prescription for the solution. Descriptively, of course, we have a huge problem with Citizens United and wealth inequality and income inequality. We have a huge problem with the fact that we haven't raised the minimum wage since 2009, and Social Security needs to be expanded, and Medicare should be provided for everyone, so we don't have a problem with people having access to health care who can't afford it. So all those things are issues, and Democrats do talk about them. They have solutions for them. They don't have the large scale solutions that Bernie Sanders has, but they have some solutions. But Donald Trump has no solutions. So when people choose him over people who, if you choose somebody who is going to take you backwards, or somebody who's going to take you just a little bit more forward, and you choose the person who takes you backwards because that person is a white man, that's a form of white supremacy. That's what this election was all about. And I dare anyone, I challenge anyone, no matter, I've never seen any data to contradict this. The reason why people support Donald Trump is because of white supremacy. His ads, as you pointed out, they weren't focused on the economy. I was in the swing states, as you were too. I was in Pennsylvania,
Yes.
Georgia, and Nevada. You know what I saw? Those ads showed two things. It was all about transgender people and illegal immigrants. Those are the two things he was running on. He wasn't running on the economy. Kamala Harris was running ads about her plans. Donald Trump was running about fear. And, people try to make it all complicated, like Donald Trump is some sort of genius. He didn't run a great campaign. He ran a horrible campaign. He did everything wrong. He was talking about people eating dogs and cats in Springfield, Ohio. He was insulting voters in Detroit, Michigan. He was refusing to apologize for the guy in his rally in Madison Square Garden who was attacking Latino voters and Puerto Ricans. Donald Trump did every possible thing wrong, even simulated a sex act on stage. And it didn't make a difference because they weren't voting on character. They weren't voting on policy. They weren't voting on anything but white supremacy. And the fact that people can't even get their minds around it themselves to say that doesn't mean it's not true. It just means they haven't digested and processed the reality that that's what's making them make their decisions because they don't want to admit it.
Yeah, for all those things that Bernie Sanders is talking about, the way to get those things, you have to have more people in Congress. President Barack Obama wanted to increase the minimum wage to $10.10. He couldn't get it through Congress. All these things that you want, it has to go through Congress. You can't do an executive order to end Citizens United. You can't do an executive order to increase the minimum wage. You can't do an executive order to protect pensions. Let's remind people the American Rescue Plan did protect pensions for union workers. That has to go through Congress. It outrages me that Bernie Sanders has those great talking points. He's a sitting senator and doesn't put these things in. Say, yes, the Democratic Party, they have these platforms and you have to vote for these folks to get it through Congress. It sounds so circular. It really sounds, to be honest with you, dangerous to say because it fans the flames of misinformation because so many folks don't know how basic civics works.